Before you close your eyes, hear this. An ancient secret buried deep within the pages of Genesis. A mystery so profound it has slipped through the cracks of history, veiled in silence. What if the first creation of mankind wasn't what we thought it was? What if, for millennia, the truth about our origin has been hidden in plain sight, misinterpreted, or deliberately obscured? The narrative we've been told, of Adam and Eve, of creation in the garden. What if it's not the whole story? What if Genesis holds a hidden truth that could shake the very foundation of everything we believe about humanity's purpose, its divine spark, and its fall? Genesis 1 speaks of a humanity shaped by Elohim, a divine assembly. Could it be that this wasn't a simple act of creation, but a spiritual awakening of something far greater? What happened to the humanity described in Genesis 2, the one formed from clay, given life by the breath of the Lord? Could it be that two creations, two types of humans, are described in these sacred verses? One spiritual, the other physical, one eternal, the other bound by time, pain, and desire. In this revelation, you will discover the hidden layers of these ancient texts. You'll uncover the true meaning behind Elohim and YHWH, Elohim, the language of creation, and the surprising significance of Lilith, Cain, and the beings who existed before Eden. What if Lilith, not Eve, was the first woman, a woman who defied the order of creation? What if the creation of man wasn't as straightforward as we've been taught? The profound duality within Genesis hints at an ancient conflict between two natures, one spiritual, the other earthly. What if this battle still rages within you, between the divine spark of Genesis 1 and the earthly, flesh-bound soul of Genesis 2? This journey will uncover how the creation story shapes not only the past, but the very way we live today. You'll see how the story of two human creations is not just an ancient tale, but a map for your soul, an invitation to awaken the divine essence within. Why does the conflict between flesh and spirit define your daily choices? How can you begin to bridge the gap between these two natures and find your true self in the process? You're not just reading an ancient book. You are unlocking the deepest truths about humanity's origin, its spiritual nature, and its destiny. Stay with me as we embark on a journey to reveal the hidden, divine truth about who you truly are, and how this knowledge can change everything you thought you knew about your soul, your body, and your place in the world. Let's dive deep into Genesis, uncover its secrets, and understand the creation of humanity in a way that will leave you forever changed. Genesis 1, the divine assembly and the creation of humanity. In the opening chapter of Genesis, the Creator speaks with a power that echoes through the ages. Let there be light, and instantly the universe bursts into being. But here, in the very first verse, something profound occurs. The term used for God is Elohim, a plural form, suggesting not a singular God, but a collective force, an assembly of divine beings working in unison. This is not the image of a solitary God, alone in a void, commanding existence into being. No, this is a unity, a divine collective, cooperating to shape the cosmos, breathing life into every star, every living thing, and yes, humanity itself. Elohim is not a distant, aloof deity, but a multifaceted, all-encompassing divine assembly. In this moment, we are told that humanity is created in the image of God. But what does this mean? It is not just a physical likeness, for no human could ever fully capture the essence of the divine in mere form. Rather, it suggests an inherent potential, a reflection of divine purpose, a spiritual identity that transcends time and space. We are made as dual beings, male and female, integrated from the beginning, never separate, but whole, embodying the unity of creation itself. This is a humanity that exists beyond Eden, beyond the garden and its temptations, beyond the fall. Here we see humanity as part of a divine harmony, created not to suffer or to struggle, but to thrive, to multiply, to fill the earth with the very image of God. But what does it mean for us today that we were made in the image of something greater than ourselves? It's a truth we often forget, buried under the weight of material existence and the distractions of daily life. This initial creation tells us that we are more than the body we inhabit. We are a divine spark, a fragment of a higher consciousness, created not just to live, but to reflect the divine. Our purpose is nothing less than to embody and express this higher truth. It's a calling that transcends mere survival and pushes us toward our true potential, becoming like those divine beings, unified in purpose and radiant in light. Genesis 2, the forming of man, a more intimate creation. Then, with a shift, we turn to Genesis chapter 2, where the scene changes drastically. God is no longer Elohim, a collective force, but Yahweh, Elohim, a more personal, intimate deity who forms man from the dust of the earth, breathing life into his nostrils. This is no longer a distant command, but a gentle, intimate act. The language used here is one of creation through touch, through the hands of a potter shaping clay. This second creation speaks to something more personal, more connected. Humanity is now embodied, physical, with desires, weaknesses, and the very possibility of fallibility. It's in this second creation story that we encounter the fall of man, the moment when the perfect unity of Genesis 1 seems to crack and splinter. For Adam is alone. He is the first of his kind, and yet he is incomplete. The woman, Eve, is not created simultaneously with him, as in Genesis 1, but is taken from his own rib, crafted to be his companion, his equal. And here, in this moment, we see the complexity of the human condition begin to unfold. The first humanity in Genesis 1 is spiritually perfect, but in Genesis 2, it is vulnerable, made of dust, formed from earth, capable of feeling the weight of sin, pain, and separation. This is where the beauty and tragedy of humanity lie. We are both divine and earthly. We are, as Genesis shows us, made in the image of God, but we are also made of the earth, fragile and susceptible to the forces of temptation and desire. There is beauty in this, as we are given the chance to rise above the earth, to transcend our base nature, to seek the light that is embedded within us. But there is also a danger. The fall is not just a myth, not just a story from the past. It is a present reality. Each of us faces the choice. Will we listen to the divine voice within us, or will we succumb to the flesh and its desires? We are the beings of Genesis 2, made from clay, but capable of reaching for the stars. We are not bound to the earth, nor are we simply spiritual entities in the sky. We are the bridge between these two realms, the flesh and the spirit, and the struggle to reconcile them is what shapes our lives. The creation of man in Genesis 2 is a reminder that we are not perfect, that we are broken, and yet, in our brokenness, we are given the chance to become whole again. It is a lesson that echoes through the ages. Our true humanity is found in our ability to transcend our weaknesses and seek the divine spark within. The dual nature of humanity. Two creations, two paths. As we reflect on these two creation stories, we begin to see a pattern emerge. Two creations, two paths. The humanity of Genesis 1, made in the image of Elohim, is spiritual, perfect, and timeless. The humanity of Genesis 2, made from dust, is physical, flawed, and bound by time. And yet, both are part of the same story. Both are humanity. One creation is the ideal, the other, the reality. and both are needed for the full expression of the human journey. It is in this duality that we find the essence of our existence. We are both of the earth and of the divine. Our bodies are fragile, our souls are eternal. Our desires pull us toward the world, but our spirits pull us toward the heavens. And the question we must ask ourselves every day is, which nature will we feed? Will we nurture the flesh with its desire for pleasure, power, and control, or will we nurture the spirit with its longing for wisdom, love, and connection to the divine? This is the choice we face every moment of our lives, and the answer is not simple. It is not a matter of rejecting the flesh, but of transcending it. It is not a matter of denying our physical existence, but of finding the divine within it. It is about embracing the duality of who we are, the dust and the divinity, and finding the way to live as whole beings connected to both heaven and earth. In these two creation stories, Genesis reveals to us the full spectrum of humanity, its glory and its struggle, its light and its shadow. We are created from dust, but we are called to rise. We are made in the image of Elohim, but we are also formed by Wihwash Elohim, with hands that touch and form, with desires that pull us both up and down. And in this struggle, we find our true purpose, to be both divine and human, to walk the earth and reach for the heavens, to be the bridge between the spirit and the flesh. This is the story of humanity, and it is a story that continues to unfold within each of us every day. Lilith, the first woman, and the mystery of the children of Genesis. In the earliest pages of Genesis, something extraordinary is revealed, an alternative version of the woman who was created alongside Adam. She is not Eve, as tradition has told us, but Lilith, a name that has echoed throughout history, whispered in hushed tones, yet never fully understood. Lilith was said to have been created simultaneously with Adam in Genesis 1, a woman made in the same image of God, equal to him in every way. But Lilith was no passive creation, no mere reflection of the man she was to accompany. She was strong, independent, and unwilling to submit. And so she left Eden, abandoning Adam, and fled into the wilderness. Why did Lilith leave? What does her story reveal about the nature of humanity, about the balance of power between man and woman, and about the choices we make when faced with authority and desire? Lilith's departure from Eden is not just a tale of rebellion, but a profound reflection of the human condition. She represents the longing for equality, the refusal to be confined by the roles assigned to her. What if Lilith is the true first woman of Genesis 1, the woman of the Spirit, the archetype of what humanity was meant to be, a perfect creation, whole and equal? And Eve, the woman of Genesis 2, is not the first woman but the second, the one created from Adam's rib, formed to complement him, but never to fully stand as his equal. What if this duality is more than just a theological question? What if the story of Lilith and Eve is a mirror for our own lives today? The choice between submission and independence, between following tradition or challenging it, is not something relegated to ancient history. It is something we face every day. We too must decide whether we will embrace the roles that society has given us, or whether we will forge our own paths, as Lilith did, wild and free, but at great cost. Lilith's story reminds us that humanity's struggle is not simply one of sin and redemption. It is one of power, choice, and identity. Her exile is not a curse, but a call to embrace the strength and independence that is within all of us, regardless of gender, regardless of the expectations placed upon us. Cain's fear of other humans and the wife of Cain, the hidden people outside Eden. The story of Cain is one of the most puzzling and mysterious in the Bible. After Cain murders his brother Abel, he is cast out, marked by God, and sentenced to wander the earth. But then Cain says something that shakes the very foundation of the biblical narrative. Whoever finds me will kill me. But who are these other people? How could anyone find him if only he and his parents existed? The Bible doesn't offer us an answer, but it leaves a gap, a space for us to explore. Could it be that the humanity of Genesis 1, the people created in the image of Elohim, were not confined to Eden? Could there have been others, people outside of the garden living on the earth long before Adam and Eve, yet never mentioned in the text? If this is the case, then the story of Cain takes on an entirely new dimension. The fear he expresses isn't just about punishment. It's about the existence of another people, another race, another lineage that predated Adam and Eve. This opens up a vast hidden world, a world that Genesis does not fully reveal, but that echoes throughout the apocryphal texts, the Jewish oral traditions, and even the Dead Sea Scrolls. Cain's wife, where did she come from? The Bible doesn't say, but we can infer that she too might have come from a lineage that existed outside of Eden, a people who were created not by Elohim, but by another force, perhaps even the divine assembly itself. The mystery of Cain's fear and the origins of his wife raises deeper questions about the nature of creation, of humanity, and of the divine plan. Was there another race of humans, created alongside Adam and Eve, but outside the garden? And if so, what does this mean for the creation story itself? Could it be that the two narratives, the spiritual creation of Genesis 1 and the physical, earthy creation of Genesis 2, are not separate, but interwoven, both coexisting as part of a greater plan? And if this is true, what does it say about our own identity, our own origins, and our own place in the grand scheme of things? The mystery of two lineages, the children of light and the children of darkness. As we delve deeper into the hidden corners of Genesis, we find that the idea of two lineages, one of light, one of darkness, appears not only in the text itself, but also in ancient traditions and sacred writings that were excluded from the canon. The Dead Sea Scrolls speak of the children of light and the children of darkness, a division that some interpret as a spiritual war, a battle between two opposing natures within humanity. This division is not just a myth or a metaphor, it is a reflection of the duality of human nature. One side seeks the divine, the eternal, the transcendent. The other side seeks the earthly, the material, the fleeting. This battle between light and darkness, between spirit and flesh, plays out every day in our lives. The choice between the two is not always clear, but it is a choice that defines us. In the Midrash Rabbah, an ancient Jewish commentary, it is suggested that Lilith was the true first woman, created in the same image of God as Adam, and that Eve was the second creation, formed from Adam's rib. This stark contrast reinforces the duality of humanity, one creation, spiritual and eternal, and the other, physical and flawed. The children of light represent the spiritual, divine aspect of humanity, while the children of darkness represent the material, earthly side. But what if this duality is not simply about two opposing forces, but about the two natures that reside within each of us? We are not purely spiritual, nor are we purely material. We are both. And it is in this tension, this struggle, that we find our true humanity. Our daily choices, the way we live, the way we act, the way we treat others, are reflections of this eternal battle. Will we choose the path of light, the path of love, wisdom, and truth? Or will we succumb to the path of darkness, driven by ego, fear, and desire? The children of light and the children of darkness are not distant beings, but parts of our own soul. We carry both within us, and every day we decide which nature will dominate. The true message of Genesis, the secret that lies hidden in the stories of Adam, Eve, Cain, and Lilith, is not just about the creation of humanity. It is about the creation of the soul, the ongoing struggle between the flesh and the spirit, and the choice we all must make, to embrace the light or to fall deeper into the darkness. The Hebrew language's hidden symbolism. The two creation acts. In the intricate dance of the Hebrew language, every word is a universe of meaning, rich with layers, symbolism, and divine intent. The words used in Genesis to describe the creation of humanity are no exception. In Genesis 1, we find the verb bara, which means to create from nothing. This is an act of divine will, an eternal, impersonal creation that speaks of cosmic unity, of a divine assembly forming the heavens and the earth, and humankind in its purest spiritual form. The essence of bara is creation ex nihilo, creation out of nothing, a manifestation of the divine will into existence. But in Genesis 2, everything shifts. Here, the verb changes to yatsar, meaning to form or to shape. This is a much more tactile, intimate, and personal act. Yatsar is the verb used to describe a potter shaping clay, to mold with hands, to invest oneself into the very substance of creation. The shift in these verbs reveals something profound. The first humanity in Genesis 1 is formed from the divine will, a spiritual being made in God's image. But the humanity of Genesis 2 is a physical being, molded from the dust of the earth, bound by time, space, and mortality. This distinction between bara and yatsar is not merely a linguistic difference, but a profound theological statement. It reveals that humanity's essence, in its original form, was both divine and spiritual, created in harmony with the cosmos. But in Genesis 2, the intimacy of creation brings us into a world of physicality, where we are both spirit and flesh, destined to grapple with the tension between these two forces. This moment, this shift, is the very beginning of our struggle, the eternal battle between our divine spark and our earthly desires. It is a reminder that as much as we are made in the image of Elohim, we are also made from dust, and that duality lives within us every day. Gnostic vision and the demiurge, a different creation. In the early centuries of Christian thought, a profound alternative narrative began to emerge, one that contrasted sharply with the creation account in Genesis. This was the Gnostic worldview, a cosmology that saw the material world not as a divine act of creation, but as the flawed work of a lesser god. In the Gnostic texts, the supreme God, pure and unknowable, creates a spiritual world of light and wisdom. But then, a second being appears, the demiurge, a lesser god who forms the physical world. The demiurge is often identified with the God of the Old Testament, the one who shapes humanity with his hands, imposing laws and creating the material world. In this worldview, the humanity of Genesis 1 would have been created by the supreme God, spiritual, divine, and pure. But Adam and Eve, as depicted in Genesis 2, are the creation of the demiurge, a flawed being, trapped in a material world, subject to error, pain, and death. The two creations in this context represent two opposing forces within the human experience, the spiritual, divine humanity of Genesis 1 and the material, flawed humanity of Genesis 2. This alternative vision, though considered heretical by the official church, offers a compelling explanation for the duality within humanity. Why does the God of Genesis 1 create a perfect world, and then, in Genesis 2, create a flawed and suffering humanity? Why do we seem to be both divine and earthly, spiritual and carnal? The Gnostic answer is that we were first created in the image of the divine as pure beings of light. But the material world and the body we inhabit are the creations of a lesser God, a being who traps our souls in a world of imperfection and suffering. In this view, the fall of humanity is not just a moral failure, but a descent into a world of materiality, a fall from the divine light into the darkness of the flesh. Yet this is not a hopeless story. For the Gnostics, the journey of humanity is not one of redemption through submission, but of awakening to the divine spark within us, and seeking to return to the pure, spiritual existence from which we came. This understanding of humanity's fall and redemption offers a new lens through which we can view our own lives. Are we merely bodies trapped in a material world, or are we spiritual beings awakening to our divine origins? The duality of humanity, spirit and flesh, divine and earthly. Genesis is not just a story about the past. It is a story that lives within each of us. The dual creation accounts, with their tensions between spirit and flesh, divine and earthly, are a mirror of the inner conflict that defines the human experience. We are both divine and carnal, both spiritual and material, and it is this tension that shapes every aspect of our lives. We live in bodies made of dust, fragile and bound by time. We experience pain, pleasure, and desire. But within us, there is also a spark of the divine, an eternal soul, a connection to the heavens. And every day, we must choose which nature we will nourish. Will we follow the desires of the flesh, chasing after power, pleasure, and control? Or will we seek the light of the Spirit, embracing wisdom, love, and truth? This battle between spirit and flesh, between divine and earthly, is not just a struggle between good and evil, but between two aspects of our own nature. The world often tells us that we must choose one or the other, that we must either embrace the material world and all its pleasures, or deny it entirely and seek only the spiritual. But Genesis tells us a different story. It tells us that we are both. We are both dust and light, both flesh and spirit. And the key to our humanity lies not in rejecting one side of us, but in embracing both. The fall of man, then, is not the end of the story. It is the beginning of our journey, the moment we become aware of the struggle between our divine and earthly natures. And this awareness is the first step toward redemption, not redemption in the traditional sense, but a return to the unity of our original creation. We are called not to escape the flesh, but to sanctify it, to make it a vessel for the divine. The journey of humanity is not one of denying the world, but of transforming it, of taking the dust of the earth and turning it into something sacred, of taking the flesh and filling it with the light of the Spirit. Genesis calls us to recognize the divine spark within us and to honor both our spiritual and earthly natures. It challenges us to transcend the duality of our existence and to find harmony between the two. We are not bound by the flesh. We are the bridge between heaven and earth, between the divine and the earthly. And the story of Genesis is not just a story of creation, but a story of awakening, a call to remember who we truly are and to live as both dust and light, as both spirit and flesh. In the end, the true redemption of humanity is not found in escaping the world, but in embracing it, transforming it, sanctifying it, and making it a reflection of the divine. This is the journey we are all on, the journey that Genesis sets before us. The story of Genesis does not end with the fall. It begins there, with the recognition of our dual nature and the call to rise above it, to reclaim the divine within us, and to walk the earth as beings of light. In the quiet corners of our hearts, we often find ourselves questioning the very nature of our existence. We are born into a world that teaches us to live according to rules, to follow paths laid out for us by others. But deep down, we sense that something more profound awaits us. A truth hidden just beneath the surface of our everyday lives, waiting to be uncovered. It is the divine spark within us, the essence of our creation, the Elohim and YBH Elohim of Genesis, the source of our being, the very reason we exist. We were created in the image of God. But what does that really mean? In a world where everything seems broken, where pain, loss, and struggle are part of the fabric of our existence, how do we reconcile the idea of being created in the image of something divine? How do we embrace this divine spark in a world that feels so disconnected from the divine? It is in this tension, this struggle between the earthly and the spiritual, that we discover the true meaning of life. We are not just physical beings bound by time, flesh, and imperfection. We are also spiritual beings, created with a purpose far beyond mere survival. But how do we live this truth? How do we live as both dust and light, as both divine and earthly? The answer is in our choices. Each day we make a decision to either honor the divine spark within us or succumb to the distractions of the world. Every moment is an opportunity to choose the light over the darkness, to embrace the spirit over the flesh. This journey, the journey of reconciling the two natures within us, is not an easy one. It is a path filled with struggles, doubts, and moments of despair. But it is also a path filled with beauty, wonder, and a sense of purpose that transcends everything we experience on a surface level. The story of Genesis is not just an ancient tale. It is the story of each of us, a story that is still unfolding in our lives today. The duality of our nature, the tension between our spirit and flesh, is the very thing that makes us human. It is the journey we are all on, the journey to remember who we truly are and to live in alignment with that truth. As you reflect on these words, I ask you to look within. What do you see? Do you see a body, a collection of flesh and bone, or do you see something more? Do you feel the divine spark that is within you, the light that was placed in your soul before you were even born? It is there, waiting to be awakened. And when you begin to recognize this divine spark, everything changes. Your perspective on life shifts. You begin to understand that the struggles you face, the challenges you endure, are not punishments, but opportunities. Opportunities to grow, to rise, and to transform. This is the essence of the human experience. It is not about escaping the physical world, but about transforming it. It is about making the flesh sacred, about aligning your body with the divine purpose that was woven into your being from the beginning. It is about understanding that you are not just a body, but a soul with a divine mission, and every day, every choice, every moment is an opportunity to move closer to that truth. If this message has touched something deep within you, if you feel the weight of these words resonate in your heart, I invite you to join me on this journey, to awaken the divine within, to live a life that reflects the truth of who you truly are. If you feel that this video has brought light into your life, if it has helped you see the truth that was hidden in the depths of your soul, I ask for your support. Every like, every share, and every comment is an offering of energy, an exchange that allows this message to continue reaching those who need it most. Your support, no matter how small, is invaluable. It is a reminder that together, we are creating a world where the divine spark within us all is recognized, honored, and allowed to shine brightly. Thank you, from the depths of my heart, for being part of this journey. May the light within you continue to grow, and may you always remember that you are made in the image of Elohim, destined to shine like the stars. And as you go forward, remember, the journey doesn't end here. It's just beginning. Keep choosing the light, keep seeking the divine spark within, and always, always know that you are more than just dust. You are divinity, living and breathing in this world with a purpose beyond what you can imagine. Keep shining, because the world needs your light now more than ever.